My name is Alexa Chapivsky, and on behalf of the Ukraine House Organizing Committee, we're very glad that you're here joining us for this special evening. I would like to introduce Emmy Award-winning journalist, national political reporter for Axios, Mr. Jonathan Swan. Jonathan is going to introduce the president, and before he does so, we wanted to give the president a warm welcome on behalf of the House. Mr. President, it is rare in generations, that the world encounters such a leader. We admire you, we respect you, we appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. President, for not taking that ride. You have been giving your Herculean energy out into the world, to your country, to your people, to the military, to the wounded, to the fallen and their families, to your land, to the international community. We collectively here at Ukraine House Davos tonight want to give just a small sliver of that energy and that passion and that love back to you. Dear friends, thank you in Ukrainian is "Дякуємо." Дякуємо! 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 Дякуємо!
President Zelenskyy.
Yes, I can see you.
President Zelenskyy and I first met in January last year in Kyiv, and since then he's become a wartime leader, inspiring Ukrainians and rallying the world. Mr. President, thank you for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thank you and for such welcoming words, very encouraging. Yes, we are a collective leader. That's the nation that takes the lead, all our people. And I think that they are the ones, they are the engine of our state. And that engine deserves your support and appreciation. Nevertheless, I'm very happy to hear such warm words from you, Jonathan.
Mr. President, you said something last month that I can't get out of my head. You said, quote, "People see this war on Instagram, on social media. When they get sick of it, they will scroll away." It sounds like you feel that rich, comfortable people in the West, like many in this room in Davos, will become numb to Ukraine's suffering and simply stop thinking about it. How worried are you about the West losing interest in Ukraine?
I think that this is not the issue of the people gathering in this audience or in Davos for that matter, or the level of wealth, the level of income that people have. People get tired of anything. They get fed up. And the matter is that, like any medium, if somebody is super popular or some topic is super popular, then the world gets quite cynical. And war, for many, unfortunately, for many, it is, for many users of the social media, it's a topic of that sort. It's a bunch of topics people can easily get tired of and scroll down. And at some point, people want something new. And unfortunately, this is cynical, but this is the way the world is, the modern world. People want a new picture, a new image, the same people, the same victims, the same Ukraine. We have to be sorry. Unfortunately, it is attacked by Russia, but we have heard this. We've been there and done that already. And people can be tired of that. Like people get tired, the military fighting. They are in the east of our state today. and 100 people just die every day. 100 people, and this is true. They die and they get tired and die. And they die and get tired. Some people are not tired of attacking us because they don't care how many people they lose, how many people die on their side, how those people look, what their names are, what the number of unrecovered bodies is. And unfortunately, when I'm talking about such people, but we have tens of thousands of black bags with the people which are not picked up by Russia. They are not retrieved by Russia. And this is the situation when we have this kind of cynicism that provides a prerequisite for any aggression, and aggression leads to a war and then a full-scale war. Our task for the world not to get tired of war and support Ukraine, because we are fighting for the values which make people livelihoods and serve as the oxygen they breathing. And we do not understand the value of people which are not needed by anyone when they're dead. And I used to think that freedom of expression, it was my choice where to go, where to travel, who to be, which language to speak. I thought it was up to me, it was my choice, and I never supposed to defend that choice because I was a free person. Now, but I am stay free till the point when somebody tries to get it away from you, something you are used to, you take for granted, you start appreciating such things. If you want to evaluate the war and the casualties, unfortunately, you can appreciate that only when you lose something till the very end. And that's why I have to address you. I'm thankful for the opportunity, all of you, for this conversation. We have to talk and we have to display all the details of this aggressive and cynical thing done by the military political leadership of the Russian Federation. And if you feel tired of this topic, Ukraine will disappear from the front pages of the world and will not get something that helps us defend ourselves. We want to get the priority military equipment, finance sanctions against Russia, freezing of the assets and accounts of the oligarchs that provide nutrition for this bloody war. I think I have been too long in my answering this question. Sorry for that.
You covered a lot of ground there, Mr. President. What do you say to Americans who do not think Ukraine's sovereignty is worth risking the United States getting into a direct military confrontation with Russia?
The United States of America, we are very grateful for what this country is already doing for Ukraine and for their support in something that we need from the European countries. They lobby for us there, and I'm very thankful. There's one very important thing, that countries which are now NATO nations, member of the alliance that is a closed club in a way. Not any country can enter this club, but members of the alliance should know and believe that if any country tries any aggression against them, then NATO collectively will provide for the defense, and they have to be sure of that. They have to have faith in that. So if the United States of America doesn't help Ukraine, that means doesn't help protect freedom on democracy, where the United States serves as an epitome of that. We've heard about that for decades now. So whether you are a member or not a member, that also makes protection provided by NATO questionable, because Ukraine is here. Ukraine is bordering with the Russian Federation, and we are the ones being attacked now. If we fall, if we don't hold the line, Russia will proceed attacking the Baltic states, Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and there with the smaller states which cannot independently, even the three of them together, cannot protect the values I was talking about just now. So then they will have to demonstrate that they, as NATO members can rely upon something, and they rely upon the strength of the United States and their position. And the US military will have to go to Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, according to the 5th article, and they will have to fight there and die there. And so for the military, for the citizens of the United States and the European countries which are NATO members, not to die. For your families not to have any losses. Our families are suffering instead, and you have to support Ukraine because of that.
It's an important debate going on right now in the US, and as you know, there's a growing nationalist sentiment, the America First movement. I just want to draw you out a little bit. Obviously, Ukraine's not a member of NATO. What do you say to those in America who say, this is Europe's problem? If the Europeans want to fight Russia, let them supply the weapons. And given how poorly Putin's army has performed so far in Ukraine, how does Russia's invasion threaten the United States?
I think that I have nothing to add. First of all, they have to start reading some memoirs of the Second World War, the documents where it all started, where Europe was, how it was occupied, and how then acquired some allies when the United States of America started supporting the European continent, and how it all happened. And what would have happened had they not supported Europe then? I think we had enough losses and casualties in the United States and Canada. We had then casualties, had losses, but they didn't lose millions of people. Europe did lose millions of people because of the Nazi Germany mercilessly killing those people, and we understand that genocide against the Jewish people was one of the factors of that bloody war, and one of the stages of all those reflected in all those history books and history research. And we understand that we should not be afraid of those people. If you're afraid, they become stronger in their appetites, and step by step, they understand more and more that everything is possible for them. And they start capturing everything they can lay their hands upon without any values respected. They take the whole over the whole states, and as a result of that, we have such suffering and such tragedy and millions of victims. So what can I say to the people who think that this is just for Europe, this is far away, this is not in our backyard, this is somewhere in the world. But the world is much smaller than we think. If we take not the topic of war, but the issue of the pandemic, COVID-19, We understood then that the world was very small. The pandemic was everywhere. We were fighting everywhere, and everywhere we felt the deficit of vaccines, and the world demonstrated that it was not really united. We remember how people were shutting down. This is the European Union, this is the US, we are friends here, we are different there, and people received the vaccines. At some point, people united and started putting pressure on their leadership, and everyone had the right to be cured and assisted. COVID-19 is a very bright and definite example of such a tragedy and how quickly it can spread over the world. And this aggression of Russia's, we didn't expect it to start, but now we do not know where it will end up, in Germany, in Lithuania, in Poland. Now we do not know where they will stop. Many states which in the Second World War were trying to make arrangements behind the majority in Europe to secure their own peace and on neutrality, had talks with Germany. Had they any gain in that? Were there Jews unlike those in Poland? Everyone suffered at the end of the day. And then Babin Yar in Ukraine, in Kiev, 100,000 tortured and killed people, not just Jews. They would kill Ukrainians. 1 out of 5 Ukrainians perished in the Second World War. 1 out of 5, that's it. So, excuse my being so direct with you, but for the occupation, there is no notion of distance. There is no such notion. I think that the most important thing from the very beginning is to stop any kind of aggression.
President Zelenskyy, you mentioned how this ends. You said on Ukrainian television over the weekend, the war could only end with diplomacy. Do you expect at some point to negotiate and sign a peace agreement with Vladimir Putin?
I understand that any war ends with some diplomatic arrangements leading to peace. Diplomacy leads to peace, and peace is desirable for every human being. And for everyone at the front line, even for the couch potatoes, some couch potatoes sometimes are hot-headed more than the ones at the front line. Internally, at least. That's our reality, but any kind of human being understands reasonably that any war should end with peace. What will be the end of this war? Let's look on it objectively. Suffering of many families, a big loss in human lives, big losses of your loved ones, parents who survive their own children. This is a tragedy. We have children, we have no children, but we understand how it feels. It's a tragedy. And I decorated posthumously the heroes of Ukraine in Mariinsky Palace. They did not approach me. Their parents approached me, their wives. The wives, they are 23 to 24 years old. They are very young ladies receiving those posthumous decorations. I was also crying. I had tears in my eyes. I was looking at them. I could not see any happiness in their eyes. I could not see the happiness with the golden star given to their loved ones. That was a tragedy, the tragedy of their families. So that what should be the end of any kind of war? That's the end of it. Those tears. But we do not have any choice because we were not the ones who started the war. we have no way out of this situation. That's why we are strong and united. That's why we are fighting. And we are fighting for what I was describing to you, freedom. Nobody wants to sacrifice one's life, but people do that for the future. And this is not my being too dramatic, over dramatic. This is suffering of the Ukrainian people and any people living through a war. That's the end of any war. Pain, and this pain cannot be fathomed when you lose your loved ones. And we have no choice, and our war will end with our victory. This is not our war till the last Ukrainian dies. We have no right just to give them the land and the people living on that land. Do we think we need any land without people? Do we think that IDPs, forceful migration to other countries, people who had to leave, and the families left, but consisting of women and children, because the men stayed behind, fighting for their land. This is our land, our people, and we are fighting for them. And that's the price we pay. And this price will buy us the victory, because there's no other way out of this.
Mr. President, I want to ask what a deal could look like. You suggested to a group of Russian journalists in a March interview that you were willing to offer neutrality and give up on NATO membership in exchange for strong security guarantees. You also suggested that if Russian troops return to the pre-February 24 lines, it would be possible to negotiate over the Donbass and Crimea. Are those still your positions?
You know, with every step, with every day, it's getting more and more difficult. And I think it will be more difficult to arrange any kind of meeting at the presidential level between the two countries, for the two countries. It is difficult because there is the line that can hardly be crossed after Bucha, Irpin, Mariupol, and other towns and cities. You saw that, you witnessed that in real time. Unfortunately, it's very difficult, it's very hard. Nevertheless, we have to try to put an end to this war. And I think that we will keep the pressure as much as we can if we have the military equipment, the arms, not weapons, because it's some kind of gimmick, some kind of idea to talk about weapons all the time. We need powerful arms, though, for the opportunity not to lose so many people, because in modern war, we have people fighting against equipment. Barehanded, some people tried to stop the tanks, and they did. That's how it happened. In some places, we need the equipment because we are fighting against a big power, a big state in terms of scope, in terms of scale, 20 times more equipment than we have. 1 to 20 in Donbass. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine what kind of people we have, how strong they are, what kind of a nation we are? 1 to 20. And that's it. So I do not want hundreds of thousands to die. That's why we need equipment that can fight from a distance without immediate contact for the people. And now we'll be keeping that pressure till the point when Russia understands that there's no other way out than restoring peace. Presently, we are quite successful in Kharkiv direction. We have deblocked that area, and we repelled the attacks and took back, we have taken back some of our citizen towns, but the bloodiest situation is in the Ukrainian Donbas, where we are losing too many people. You have all the necessary things to save those lives and preserve other lives. Just listen to that and take heed of that. Conversation with Putin or no conversation with Putin in any other format, it doesn't depend on us alone. We will fight till the point when we can liberate everything that we can liberate, our land, our country.
I want to make sure I understood you correctly, because it seemed like you just said something very important, which I haven't heard you before. Usually I hear you say you want to meet with Putin, you want to sit down with Putin. It seems now that you feel like he's crossed so many lines with Bucha and other things that you don't even want to maybe meet with him anymore. Maybe you see this as potentially victory on the battlefield and then total surrender from Vladimir Putin. Is that how you see things?
They have such a structure of decision-making in their state that without Putin, no decision can be taken. And we have to clearly understand and realize that all the institutions are united, and the pinnacle of that is the presidential decision. President of the Russian Federation decides it all. If we are talking about stopping this war, without him personally, this decision cannot be taken. So we cannot avoid this meeting with the president of the Russian Federation. But after the atrocities that they committed, I cannot be too excited about such a meeting or meetings with the intermediaries. So I do not accept any kind of meeting with anyone coming from the Russian Federation, but the president of the Russian Federation. Only in the case when there is one issue on the card, stopping the war. There is no other topic for any kind of meeting.
A few days ago, your military intelligence chief, General Budonov, told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "Russia will lose in the end and Ukraine will recover all its temporary lost territories. It will do so by force, exclusively by force, because no other way exists." Do you agree with General Budonov?
I like General Budonov.
You like him, but do you agree with him?
I like him very much.
You like him, but do you agree with him?
He's a professional, you know.
He is a professional, but do you agree with him?
I always agree with professionals.
But seriously, I don't want to belabor. Sorry.
Quite frankly,
I don't want to belabor the point, but is this really realistic to take back Crimea by force? Is that really a realistic plan?
Well, I think that, presently, I'm convinced that this is talking hundreds of thousands of the military casualties on our side, not to mention the other side, but on our side, it will mean hundreds of thousands in casualties. General Budonov is a professional. I would like to complete his characteristic, his profile I was trying to outline. There are some things that I'm not supposed to comment on. General Budonov had a very serious operation and a very successful one in Afghanistan back then. And indeed, that was very well done and powerfully so. And he is a real hero. And now he's taken care of very important missions that I'm not prepared to discuss with you.
Okay.
He is brave enough. He has courage enough. I think that he can take back any territory on his own.
Okay.
With his courage, with his confidence. And I'm happy that we have this spirit in our military. This is the most important thing. We should not lose the spirit, and they keep that morale.
I have some.
But the price matters. Everything has its price.
I have some questions that are personal, Mr. President. Your advisor, Mikhailo Podolyak, said in March this year that Russia has tried to assassinate you at least a dozen times since the start of the war. What's the closest they came to killing you, so far as you know?
Складне питання.
It's a difficult one. On numerous occasions, they tried to do that. And any person, when it comes to you for the first time, you are afraid on the second or the third and the fourth time. But when it becomes repetitive, you remember that film, the Groundhog Day with Bill Murray. And he didn't want it to repeat. You know, he was living through the day on and on again. People were spending their money, investing the effort. They tried, so I was prepared to help them. But I wake up in the morning, it's still the same. So I'm quite philosophical about this situation. I think that we will all, when we decided to defend our country, to stand up and to stay in Ukraine and be ourselves, keep our positions, hold our lines, our defense lines. Whenever we were posted, we understood that that was our life. From that point on, and there are many deaths, too many that I have discussed. I'm still alive, and that's why it's me talking to you. It's not any kind of, technology that is being used.
I'm very glad not to be talking to a hologram of Zelensky. But
Yeah.
on that topic, Mr. President, you know, leaders make all the difference in wartime. You're widely seen as instrumental in holding your country together and rallying the West's support during this pivotal moment for Ukraine. Forgive me, this is a difficult question to ask, but how much thought have you given to the question of an emergency succession? Who, if anyone, could adequately fill your shoes if, God forbid, Putin's efforts to assassinate you succeed?
Ви просто постійно
You keep picturing Mr. Schreiber, and maybe it's
He's
him.
shaking his head.
It's him.
згідно нашого законодавства
According to our legislation, and we have some succession, and it's all arranged for. in our government, in our states, and we understand that if there is an attempt and God forbid assassination in such circumstances, the occupied capital, as president, I had to think about somebody taking over so that we do not lose the state, the control, and the command in our country, that we do not lose our institutions, not just the army, but also the financial institutions that were supposed to be operational 24/7, because people need their pay, their social allowances, their pensions. So we were all prepared, the division of power, myself, Prime Minister, and the Speaker, because we have the parliamentary presidential republic constitutionally. So we understood that with a certain laws we were prepared. The cabinet of ministers is divided in two parts. There are two cabinets of ministers so that the country can stay operational under any kind of circumstances, inclusive of the scenario you just described.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. It's now time for two audience questions, so I'd please like to hand it over for that.
Okay, I'm Timothy Snyder, and spytаю англійською мовою, тому що всі тут не розуміють українською
I'll
мовою.
ask him English because people here do not understand Ukrainian.
So,
Not all.
the Ukrainian nation has given us all a lot of time to think about what's important, what's truly important. This is a great service that your nation has performed for the rest of us. What I'd like to ask you, Mr. President, is what you yourself have learned about the Ukrainian nation, what you yourself have understood about your people that perhaps you didn't understand 3 months ago.
Дякую за запитання.
Thank you very much for this question. I always was sure, and my closest circle, my warm circle, my family included, they all are witnesses to that. I was always convinced that we had the best country in the world. I am a great fan of Ukraine. I have always been that, and I never missed any opportunity to make holidays in Ukraine. And I would opt for a Ukrainian destination. Some countries have higher highlands and better resorts, but for me, Ukraine is best. I would like to apologize before all of you, but I'm sure that you all love your country's best. But I'm very comfortable at home. I am that kind of person. I'm at home only in Ukraine, and as any human being, I would like to protect my homestead. It's like protecting your house, your flat, when somebody tries to intrude at night, like they did it at 4 a.m. with the missiles, yes, but nevertheless, it felt like an intrusion, like a burglary, and we were supposed to, even however sleepy, we were supposed to react, pick up anything you had about you and fight back. That was the feeling I had back then. And I think the majority of my compatriots have the same feeling, of intrusion. First, they take your home, then your soul, your mind, and you cannot expel them then. So I would like to say this. That's why I always believed, I wasn't surprised that our people got united. And they are together. They have this strong togetherness. In some parts of our countries, the West, the East, different opinions, different visions, different notions, different languages. In these, they speak more in Russian, in the West more in Ukrainian. That's how it is. But I can tell you this. We united so strongly, and I'm happy that my confidence proved right. My confidence in the Ukrainian nation. We are different, but we are the same. In detail, we are different, but in the important things, strategic things, human things, we are the same. We have the same values. And that's why this unity we discovered in the Ukrainian people. And those people who would like to divide our country, they try to instigate the fifth column. Some politicians, crossover politicians, I'm not talking about them today. It's not necessarily. But personally, in addition to that confidence, I changed my values, my approach to life. Absolutely. I realized that very simple things are the most important ones. Your children, your parents still alive and staying with you, your wife, and she's all right, your neighbors, no missile blasts, no fires, because the grief is always shared, it's always common. And this incursion, this invasion is our common grief. And this is the most important thing, to get together in the evening. I have known this opportunity, but I have this feeling. You get together as a family in the evening just to have dinner, just to look at each other and just to hug, give each other a hug, a kiss, and such things are essential, the most important in my book now. And this is the state. After this war, I think that all the people will have a different view of our country, our nature, and our environment. I always have been optimistic about our country. I see it with the loving eyes, and it's better than anything to me. And I think this revelation has happened, and that's it. That's it.
And we have one more question.
Mr. President, forgive me for asking a two-part question, but as I'm sure you know, actors have a way of seizing the moment. First of all, my group, Blue Check Ukraine, and many others like it, exists solely to support the courage and resilience of the Ukrainian people. And we wouldn't be here if it weren't for a tremendous groundswell of support that we felt at home and in the world at large. But if you could talk to the millions of Americans and other people around the world who are still considering supporting Ukraine but haven't made the next step, what would you tell them?
I would like to, first of all, tell them that to the people of the United States, of the world, of Europe, I would like to be frank with you. You are much more courageous than you think you are. Don't wait till the war knocks at your door. Fight together. Fight now for the things, for the values that we have discussed at such length today. Your states, your independent nations were built by your fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers. They were as courageous as the Ukrainian people today, I'm sure, because without fighting for your independence, you cannot gain it. you cannot have freedom and independence. This is true. In 1991, it is true, Ukraine had its independence as a windfall, and we didn't close the issue. We didn't finalize it then. That wasn't decided. Now we are fighting to the very end for freedom and independence. And I know that your forefathers and foremothers, they were very courageous indeed. They were strong indeed. And be like them. I'm calling upon you. To cut a long story short, we need weapons and sanctions, and we will pay back with freedom and independence. I think this is a fair deal.
Bravo. Thank you. Secondly, in this acute phase of the war, what would you say is the most urgent need in terms of humanitarian relief, and how might that differ from the longer-term needs of recovery and renewal? Say it again? Okay, sorry, it's the second part of my question. Secondly, in this acute phase of the war, what would you say is the most urgent need in terms of humanitarian relief? And how might that differ from the longer-term needs of recovery and renewal?
Presently, there are many needs, many urgent needs, many problems, acute problems. But with the humanitarian aspect, I would like to single out two things. Exchange of people, number one. This is the humanitarian issue at this point, and a very politically weighty decision. We need support of many states. We have thousands of people, several thousands. You know that they are taken POWs after the blocking of Mariupol or Azov Steel. They were forcefully removed, and from the Donbas, people who are in prison now, prisoners, taken prisoners. And they are courageous people. They are real heroes. I am enormously grateful to them for their heroic deeds and historic achievement. We have to exchange them. We have to bring them back. And all the states, the United States, nations, were invited, and Switzerland, Israeli consultants. We used all the experience available, but all those countries are trying to talk with Russia and sometimes have other conversations, additionally, their own conversations with the Russian Federation. So it's very important for all the world not to try to appease Russia. We should not play with Russia. This is not a matter of bargaining chips, but we have to use all the levers for pressure, business streams, the oil embargo. We have to keep the pressure of sanctions, of business measures, and that should take away, that should include the exchange opportunities. We have to exchange the military. We don't need the Russian military in any capacity. We are prepared to do that right now. And this exchange is very important. This is number one. And the second point, we have the food crisis that is looming now. There will be this crisis because of the blocking of our seaports. 22 million tons of grain blocked, sunflower oil and other essential foodstuffs. That is done by the Russian Federation, fully in control of the Black Sea and the Azov Sea. Our coast and all our ports are blocked. All the business elite, the political elite should take measures to deblock. Now there's maritime ways for Africa, Asia, and other countries to have the food supplies. For some countries, it's a matter of hunger, a matter of famine, and we have to help them with that. because if we don't solve this problem in the nearest month, if we do not make the arrangements through the intermediaries I was referring to, we'll face this famine, this catastrophe, the deficit, high prices, and it will all rot in our silos, all the grain. So the two humanitarian issues I was referring to are the most urgent and important at this point. And there is another one, the third issue. It can be the most painful, but it is not as easily practically resolvable as the two previous ones. We have no toolkit. I would like to explain. 500,000 people were forcefully deported into the territory of the Russian Federation or the occupied part of the Ukrainian Donbas. They were forcefully taken there. Children separated from their parents. We have plenty of such cases, too many, and we approached the Red Cross and the UN, where they had access. They are looking for those people. We're looking for our people. It's a very difficult story. We cannot do that surfing the internet because their IDs were taken away from them. They have no access to cell phones, to any kind of communication. This is a global problem now. I understand that that is very topical, but I'm not sure how, I'm personally not sure how we should solve it. What's the best format for such a solution? But I would like to draw attention of the international community to this issue. We would like to bring our people back. They have to come back to their homes, even in the cases where we cannot bring them back. We need information on them being alive and still accessible. This is very important. For the reconstruction of our states, I think that this is a big work, united work for all the world. We offer the model. It's been reviewed by the countries of the world, the EU, the UK. They also approached the US. So this is twinning of specific jurisdictions with the municipalities or provinces ruled by Russia. This is like patronage, and our specialists, our professionals, Professionals United. This is about experience, this is about professionalism, this is about expertise. And you know, when we are all united, we can bring all the municipalities back to life and our country back to life. It will be even more beautiful than it was. No, as beautiful as it was. That would be much fairer to say.
Well, Mr. President, I know that there's a lot of people in this room in Davos tonight and also on the large online audience watching who have the power and resources to help with some of the problems that you have laid out. And on behalf of everyone here, I want to thank you for giving us your time tonight. I hope to see you under better circumstances in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. And I'm very happy to have your support. I am thankful to every one of you. It's my great honor, and with the big business having their forum, I honestly think that business can do a lot presently while we are getting ready for the reconstruction after the victory. That will happen, we shall overcome, and the global companies, the global brands should abandon the Russian market and come to us and believe me, you know, our people. This is your great assistance. First of all, this will be about employment. Secondly, such brands should stay in a developed country, and we are building that country for you also. And you have to also take revenge on Russia because they did a bad thing, so we have to repay.
Slava Ukraini.
Glory be to Ukraine. Thank you very much. Bye.